The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. We are made to believe how poor we are, that we don't have anything, and we are living under the mercy of the West and America. And that is the reason to which, according to them, they've taken it upon themselves to always give us aid. Because to them, if they don't support us with these aids, Africa can never move forward. Africa wouldn't be able to survive because we are poor, we have nothing. And this is the narrative we bought into. And a lot of us till date are still under this illusion. But according to Harold W. French, without Africa and Africans, there is no West. That all that they see today and they are enjoying is from Africa. Whatsoever that they have today, from Brazil to whatever, we were taken out of here, from the continent to these places to go and develop their countries. And today these people are still making sure they carry things out of the continent. They can never live without us. And that is why they are putting in systems day in, day out to make sure we don't get control over the resources that we have here. Because when we do so, they will fall. That they go around preaching, turning the narrative upside down. But no matter what, the truth stands. That Africa is the reason to which we are seeing what we are seeing in the West. They are not the ones that are giving us aid. The narrative is the other way around.
Africa has always been at the center of things. That Africa at every stage of the so-called modern age has been a kind of fulcrum. It's been a place where important things have happened, transformational things have happened. That without Africa, and I insist on this in my title, without Africa and without Africans, nothing that we take for granted today in our lives would ever have come about along the timetable that it occurred. And so what do I mean by nothing? I mean there would be no West, and that this economic cultural space came about through the brutal catalyzing force of Africa and Africans. That it was the transmission of people in chains across the Atlantic that made the so-called settling of the West possible, that made the West economically profitable. There's a word in French that works better than profitable, that you can, even if you don't speak French, you can hear the significance. Rentable, rentable. It made the plantation spaces of the eastern seaboard of the United States viable economically. We cannot imagine the clearing of the wilderness, the kinds of stories we hear in our fables about the founding of this country, as having been possible on the timeline and on the scale that that took place without the input of Africans. We cannot imagine the generation of wealth through first sugar in the West Indies and in Brazil, and then subsequently through cotton and other commodities in the United States, actually prior to cotton, things more fundamental like rice, like what people ate in this country in the founding decades of the United States. These things were all generated by Africans.
And that's why you have something like, I think the World Bank says between 60 and 70% of Africa's capital shifted out of the continent. It's in banks in Europe and Asia and maybe America as well. But these people just do what the colonialists did, which was suck the wealth out and shift it overseas. And until that changes, that is, until there's a new generation or even a revolution that actually takes power back to African people, I think those problems, that lack of development, will continue.
We are rather giving them aid. There are some of us that sometimes when we come, we leave comments like misinformation, propaganda. But when we go to the places that there is propaganda, because it is oppressor, and you believe and trust whatever they feed you with, you buy into it. You don't leave such comments. We don't spread false news. They do. And even if we spread that information to bring us closer, is it not better than allowing them to spread that information to divide us? They have been the ones that have been lying to us for ages, that we are living under their mercy. They are the ones that are feeding us. They are the ones that are giving us aid. And we saw when Trump decided that he wasn't going to give us aid again, our leaders were quick in counting the problems that this aid cut-off will bring to Africa. But they have forgot to tell the world that we can do it without them, that this aid is in the guise of taking the resources out of the continent. So majority of us still live under this illusion that we are poor and there is nothing here, because that is the narrative these people always create. For instance, Nigeria joins Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso. Then you come and tell me it's a lie. I am not talking about maybe a nation joining these people, but maybe they have taken an idea, a concept. Africa is never poor, but that is the narrative they've created. So the world believes that Africa is poor. It takes only few of them to admit the fact that they are rather depending on us, and whatsoever that they have today is coming from Africa. We have to know that we are the best. There is none like us. And these people will go to any length to continue to preach the message so that we will not know what we have in our soil. And that is why they gave us the education that can't help us to transform whatever we have here to benefit us. Africa is the richest. And that is why these people are fighting themselves to be here. And they are making sure everybody or every nation in Africa live under the system of democracy, whereby they can have control over that nation. They are fighting Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso because they have been able to move out of the system and they are taking charge of whatever that is in the nation, which is not going well for them. Because now they are exposing the system that they are using to loot the continent. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Europe and in France.